Abortive Gasp was a German electro-industrial band from Hamburg, which was founded in 1987 and existed until 1989. Harry Luehr, instruments, Tim Paal, vocals, and various guest musicians were based in the independent music scene. Their style got noticed due to the high degree of improvisation, which was untypical for electronic music at that time. The young men were controversial because of their unpolitical attitude.
You better watch out!
When young men, unspoiled from previous musical knowledge, try to make new kinds of music, stunning and disturbing results are to be expected in the most cases. It is exactly the same with Abortive Gasp. They confront the audience with hard-to-digest, but always danceable electro-industrial experiments, as well as with persiflage and front to future ministry. Often the irony is clearly perceptible in their music, only to question itself again in the next moment. Unsteady, unstable, anarchic.
Not much seems to last with Paal and Luehr. They can neither decide whether they want to be part of the darkwave movement, nor whether they are indeed the right partners for a solid musical collaboration. Besides Girls Under Glass, Abortive Gasp are also considered a Hamburg Bunker Band, meaning a group active around the Schanzenviertel, playing their music in clubs like the Kier or the Stairway in close proximity of the massive bunker.
That press labeling seems somewhat militaristic, but underlines the image that these groups, unlike today, oppose the zeitgeist and the mainstream of society. Because of the hostility of the media, they therefore need a shelter, a symbolic bunker. Journalists have recognized this well. Today, bands that don't show the desired attitude don't go into bunkers, they go online.
Not long ago, Western societies were open to artists who broke taboos, thus also in music and there especially in the genre of industrial rock. The approaches of rebellious nonconformists like Marilyn Manson, Antichrist Superstar, or Skinny Puppy, Inquisition, were frequently even credited with having a subversively modernizing effect on society. In the new millennium, the left made its peace with the political system and free market economy. Thanks to increasingly progressive policies, the public has become more woke. Therefore, art that offends religious feelings is only accepted if it is accompanied by an impeccable political reputation. Abortive Gasp never had that, and there are no signs that this will change anytime soon.
The accusation that we are apolitical is actually an euphemism for the fact that we have not shown the desired attitude. We produce music regardless of sensitivities, because that's a core idea of independent and because it was actually possible. That didn't make us monsters, nor are corpses lining the path of Abortive Gasp. The fact that we had nothing to do with the dark raver dress code also bothered a lot of people. But the more makeup, accessoires and other knickknacks, the less substance. That's the way it is.
The name of the band always causes discussions. Abortive Gasp seems antinatalistic, as a call not to have children for ethical reasons. An obvious challenge for members of traditional cultural groups with a large number of kids, even if the band has never made an explicit statement about pro or against abortion. But provocations like these make access to the Gothic and darkwave scene almost impossible for refugees or Muslims, for example. If cultural politics shows no indication of trying to find a solution, the suspicion remains that the scene is actually a closed Christian society with an upside-down cross of St. Peter. With regard to Luehr and Paal, the question arises, does a band's name tell us what its members are like?
It's often true. A name says it all. The provocative description abortive gasp happened to be a vague anticipation of the direction our lives would later take, well after the inevitable breakup. To cut it short, this fathering and raising of children thing wasn't desirable for any of us. In the past, this would have been an evidence of human failure or a deplorable outcast status for sure. Today, hedonistic lifestyles are no longer considered decadent, but are socially accepted. One may compensate, yes, not aborted, but still missing offspring with carrier, domestic animals, or promiscuity. That was the case for us, and it becomes typical for the dark scene too. Hence, our name had something really path-breaking.
At the end of the 80s, Hamburg's independent music scene is still strongly influenced by punk and clearly dominated by the left. That's why Abortive Gasp, who do not show the expected progressive attitude in their music and at gigs, receive barely any backing from important players such as label owner Uli Rehberg or music journalist Alf Hilfsberg. International music critics and radio DJs like Don Campo and Brian Duguid are far more favorably disposed towards the young musicians from northern Germany.
In autumn 1989, the Iron Curtain fell in Europe and the wall in Germany. The North German independent scene was in a state of shock, and many musicians temporarily fell silent. It had been apparent for some time that punk as a youth culture and a model of life as it had emerged in London a decade before was gradually fading away. This process was accelerated by the fall of the Berlin Wall and the accompanying mood of departure. The offsprings of the post-punk scene, which had just entered puberty, the EBM and dark wave movement around bands like Agrom and Nightsa App clearly set themselves apart from their parents.
The atmosphere is tense. Abortive Gasp still produce music, but fail to take a clear political position for the continuance of socialist East Germany, and thus against the reunification of the two German states. As a result, they soon lose any further support from the darkwavers. In December, the last gig follows in Hamburg's favorite alternative club Kier, as support act for the Slovenian gay art rockers Borgesia. Ende, aus, vorbei. Abortion completed.